these days is, can you hear me? You know, normally we keep saying, hi, how are you? During COVID, can you hear me has become the standard term among, among the first few words that are ever said. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ratnesh.
I can listen to you.
Excellent, excellent. For some reason, your network bandwidth is a bit low. I think your screen is sort of frozen at this point in time. Now it's better. Excellent. So I greatly appreciate you being with us today. I would not want to take too much of your time. You can take over. Everything about Mr. Ratnesh is available with us on our web page. I don't want to take up his time. Guys, please check our web page. We've given a huge long profile of whatever he's accomplished in the past. I welcome him as part of our great panel of speakers. I would like to hand this over to Mr. Ratnesh right now. Take it away, sir.
Okay. Thanks a lot, really. So, straight away coming to the, thing, I just want to thank all of you for giving me a platform to showcase a journey which HR led this journey, and which is normally very uncommon whenever we look at organizational transformation or change management. And here was a situation where HR was not the recipient of change, rather we were the drivers of the change. So I straight away, take you through the journey, transformational journey for the last 4 years. What we did, what was the HR contribution, the intervention.
If I can interrupt.
Am I audible?
Yeah, very well. Can I interrupt for a minute? One of the things that we all know, having lived in India for many years, we all start thinking about, it's a public sector enterprise. It's a government. It moves very slow. What I have seen, what I have read, what I have heard about what you have done in your public sector enterprise with such a massive outlay in terms of the kind of work that you're doing is honestly an eye-opener. I think audience must learn that this is not a private company, guys. This is not one of the Fortune 500 companies you're talking about. You're talking about the Government of India enterprise. And I'm so proud that such work is being done in the public sector.
Yeah, that's so nice of you for the kind words.
No worries. Sorry, I just wanted to tell people the background.
So I will take you through the key, words, what we did. So I would basically start with giving you a context about what we are, who we are, what we do. So the company is called Education Consultants India Limited. In short, it's called EDCIL. It comes under Ministry of Education. In fact, it used to be Ministry of HRD. So it got changed day before yesterday, right?
Correct.
So this is the only public sector. We are Noida based. It's the only public sector which comes under the Ministry of Education, and it was set up in 1981. And predominantly it was headed by professors from IITs or Indian Institute of Management. And our job was basically to prepare detailed project reports about from new IITs or the IIM. So the company basically being the, I would say, the vehicle or the extended arm of the Ministry of Education, we are primarily involved into project management and consulting. Digital education, which is sunrise industry. So we are working very closely with the Government of India in terms of Digital India. So when we talk about Digital India, so can we leverage technology to rural areas, have smart classes and all stuff like that. So I'm sure you all have my presentation with you.
Yes.
I do not know whether you have it. Great.
Yes. Would you like me
to share the screen?
Share the screen, sir.
Yeah. So you want me to share the screen? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just sharing this.
I think it is better for the audience.
Okay. I'm sharing the screen. Yeah. Great.
Yes.
So of late, we have started working very closely. This is a mandate from the Government of India and the Prime Minister, how to showcase Indian education abroad. So there is a particular project which we are heading, and that is called Study in India. So we are basically trying to market the education in India to foreign students, saying that India is a destination of choice when it comes to quality education at 1/4 of the cost. So we have got premier engineering colleges, the management institutes, and all these things. So we are working very closely with 150 institutes in India, both in government and private institutions, and we are basically going to places like Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Eastern Europe to encourage students to come and study in India. That is also one of the key agendas in which we work. And this public sector is basically a profit making and a dividend thing. So this is a very important thing to note, because normally the public, the general people feel that public sectors are all loss making, but that's not the truth. Of 250 public sectors in Government of India, there are about 80 to 90 who are basically running into profit, and we are one of them. We work very closely with the key clients like Sarv Shiksha, basically, which is basically education to all. We also work very closely with the school education in terms of midday meal, and we have got some very strong alliance partners. For example, Tata Consulting as well as McKinsey. So they also work very closely with us in terms of leveraging our strength to make sure that we prepare and we have an impact in whatever we do. We also do a lot of online recruitment for most of the government sectors in the country. Moving to the next slide, what was the rationale for transformation? Why did we? What was the trigger point? Now, there was a lot of research, and we found out that in India, the education sector is highly underserviced. Although it is high on priority, but it's highly underserviced. So there is a lot of headroom for improvement to ensure that we have a qualitative education in India. The money is not an issue. We are sitting on about 5 lakh crore. That is the spend in education sector. So there is a lot of headroom for improvement and showcase that how well we can grow. Although we all know the challenge, but we don't have a quality player in the field who could really bridge the gap between the private sectors as well. The last and but not the least was about that when the company was set up, around the same time there were some other public sectors which were set up, but they really did well, whereas we were struggling. And we had a very plateaued growth. So there was a lot of stagnancy till 2015. So we were having very incremental growth, let's put it this way. So that was the trigger. Why did we want to change? The external trigger. So coming back to the internal, what was the problem area which we went through? Was that about we realized that we needed an external and maybe a third party, top-notch, world-rated strategic consulting firm who could draw a roadmap for us as to where we want to play, what is the market mapping, what are the areas of improvement where we could go. We were basically into push market because being a public sector, we are quite laid back, happy-go-lucky. If work comes, we will work. We didn't have a go-to approach. We didn't have that full market strategy. We didn't have a very strong business development team or as well as project execution. Obviously, customer centricity was never taken as a serious area. We didn't have a standard operating procedures. And our revenue basically was heavily dependent on 2 verticals, which was not a good story to tell. Almost 2 business verticals contributing to 85% of the revenue. and most of the ministry project was untapped and under leveraged. So these two are basically the triggers why we necessitated the change and what was the readiness to change. Now, coming back to the most important part of it is about the HR challenges, the software issues, where we were struggling. We realized that we didn't have a dedicated business leader. So maybe one head of department was given additional responsibility to manage. So it was basically not a core competence for him, but somehow he had to run the show. So our HODs were stressed because they were handling multiple responsibilities, so there was less focus on their core responsibilities. The second challenge was about we were trying to have the business development team, but they were manned by young management trainees. They were campus recruits. They didn't have somebody in the middle management to look up to and handhold them. While we had a lot of market potential about digital education, but we didn't have a HOD or a senior person to lead that particular business. So essentially, we were operating with bare minimum skeleton team. So definitely, one was about resource. Our middle management was depleted. So we had a very weird situation where the youngsters at the entry level, he or she had to report to the HOD. There was nobody at the middle level. So there was a lot of delay, project overruns, and attrition, process breakdown, so on and so forth. The third biggest challenge, what I faced, was about the competency mismatch. Now, here was an organization where most of the people, the managers, project managers, had risen from the rank, not necessarily having professional degree or like an MBA, CA, engineers and everything. They were all homegrown. The other issue was about skill and will. So one, that the skill was not there, and the second thing was about the will. So it was a double whammy for us. The problem further got complicated or intensified because we had an aging workforce. Most of the people were in late 40s, early 50s. Status quo, comfort zone, what is in for me, let the company, I'm earning my salary, and typical nuances of a public sector, what most of the public understand and think about. There was no talent pipeline, no focus on succession planning. And last but not the least, we were running with or operating with retired government officials or public sector professionals who were working as advisors. It was more of a makeshift arrangement. So the market was crying for opportunity, but we did not have people who could align themselves for this particular situation. So that was the biggest challenge for me. And let me just take maybe 30 seconds to explain. This was the time I joined. So I joined basically in August 2016, and in 24 hours, I was drafted into this role of heading the HR as well as corporate strategy. In public sector, you don't find this combination. You are basically end-to-end administration and HR person. You don't get corporate strategy aligned to this. But the board of directors and the senior management, they found a zeal inside me. They felt that yes, I could deliver. So I was given this responsibility of managing the entire corporate and change management as well. So I have, next slide is about point of departure and point of arrival. Now, this is a summary of where we are and where we wanted to be. From 2016, we wanted to basically break free from multi-year of stagnation. We were into a push market. We had inconsistent workflows. Our middle management was something which remained a big worry for us. HR policies were all over. That was not aligned. It was more like a administration and maintenance. No, I would say the motivation part was missing. It was more of a maintenance HR. The wow factor was missing. People were used to working in silos. Typical what is in for me. I'm paid enough, just do my job and move out. So there was no feeling about the pride, the cross-functional, rising over and above what is given to them. And of course, the problem got further compounded by apparent lack of consistent R&R, the reward and recognition. Now, where we wanted to arrive, where we wanted to land. So that is in 2022. Basically, it's basically a 5-year roadmap, which 6-year roadmap which we have prepared. So we wanted to reboot the organization and build Excel 2.0 with a clear and a very aggressive aim to grow 10 times the revenue with 3x increase in headcount. Now, this is something which normally takes a lot of time for people to, swallow and digest. But the market mapping and the one of the key attributes of the consulting work which we carried out with McKinsey and Company was that we had enough headroom. It was a question of how. It is not a question of why. Second focus was about to have a process excellence and domain expertise. Basically that leads to building the organization capability. While we maintained and respected the professionals who are here for the, I would say, tenured and experienced guys, but we wanted to have a very cohesive workforce which had a blend of young professionals as well as tenured employees, and drive a culture of meritocracy where people are engaged, they are productive, and that basically gets rewarded and identified with a differentiated performance through robust employee reward and recognition. So those were the, I would say, the point of departure and the point of arrival. That is exactly our goal post for us, and that is where we wanted to arrive. So that is a work in progress. We are on the right path, and in the succeeding slides of presentation, I will explain some of the early wins and how we did it, what was the governance plan part of it. Now, as I made a comment in the beginning, that unlike any major change management, HR is basically expected to just carry out the agenda of the top management and say, okay, this is what you have to do it. But here there was a difference. HR was not the recipient of change. When I say the recipient of change, it means HR, I'm talking about myself, I was involved right from day zero. Where we want to play, where is the gap, what are the sort of processes we need to build in, do we have the right team, as they always say, that structure follows strategy. So I was there right from day one and basically right in the core team where what needs to be done, how it has to be done. So that was one of the biggest, I would say, differentiator. And if I were able to rephrase it, half the battle was won there itself. We ensured that the employees are partners in progress towards rebooting the organization. It was not a communication download. Okay, this is where you have to go. No tutorial. We involved them, and this involved lots and lots of, I would say, FGD, focus group discussion, seeking the buy-in of the people, and making the people be a part of this process. We developed a very robust communication rhythm. And when I say communication rhythm for any change management, it has to be well calibrated, measured, and there should not be information overload. Because many times in our zeal to explain, we basically dilute a lot of things, and we keep telling something which the employees are not even interested to know about it. So we maintain a very calibrated and a very focused communication rhythm and a calendar. And last but not the least was about, we defined the reality. We defined the reality that if we continue to grow the way we are growing, we might end hitting the air pocket. We might be struggling. We may run into losses, and the competition is knocking at the door. But at the same time, we also give the hope that if at all some change has to happen, the change will begin right here, and you are the people who are going to do it. So that hope, that power, that that pep talk, and taking the team along, That worked wonderful. This particular slide, moving to the next slide, which is about significant improvement. So, as any successful, I would say, transition or a change management happens, if you win the people, you win the battle. You might be having the business model, smartest market strategies, but if you don't have people around us, it's basically doomed, isn't it? So we involved a lot of our FGD focus group and one-on-one discussion. So basically started, the biggest sponsor of that was the board of directors and the senior management. We conducted ideation workshops with all the key stakeholders. We had almost 11 group discussion with the HODs and with the team. And we made the HODs understand that when you go back to your department, you don't have to tell that this is a management decision. No, it's your decision, right? So, for example, we had a digital education. We explained them where the potential is, about 500 crore business, how we step into that. So that whole excitement, the game, the contest, that really, made people aligned to that. Focus group discussion, I've talked about it. We also had a very intensive sort of a one-on-one. CGM stands for Chief General Manager to Assistant Manager, which is the lowest rung of the employee. So basically, it was a top-down approach instead of a bottom-up approach. But we ensured that we have a very seamless transition of ideas, even how weird it was. We conducted town halls. And when I say town halls in a public sector, it is completely taken as something very different. But we did not stop at town hall. We ensured that we have a tech-enabled support to ask difficult, embarrassing questions, which normally people will not ask for the sake of getting identified. So we had a smartphone. We asked the employees to type the question and this will get really uploaded right at the screen, and it will be anonymous. We did it, and we had an overwhelming response. This was something which the people came out and they explained everything. We named the project as Uday. Uday is basically a sunrise. We said, okay, we will, since it is rebooting, we need to put a name around this project. So it was called Project Uday. And we did a sign off and everything. Now the whole thing basically, the journey basically helped us to define the gap to goal and also build the alignment. And the most important thing is to get the employees on board, the buy-in from the major stakeholders, which is very important. Now, last 3 slides, before I take the question, is about what were the early wins. We had shared goals and shared success, right? Now, if this slide is something which, for me, it is a signature slide, which talks about, if you look at the extreme left, 2012 to 2015, we were almost flat. And come to 2016, where we all started this journey, and 2019, we are almost, we are seeing an exponential increase in the revenue as well as in the, I would say, the profit. This is something which is music to ears, and this is for everyone to see, where employees drove this. First, they owned it, delivered it, and now they are sharing the success, because this basically translates into more bonus. The typical we call as a performance-linked salary or performance-related pay. In public sector, you can say this. This is how people who used to get peanuts in the first 4 or 5 years, now they are making a lot of money, because if the company grows, you grow. So that was basically one of the fantastic journey where we not only broke free, we also are well positioned on our growth trajectory. And in next 2-3 years, we will basically be hitting 1,000+ crores. So companies for 39 years of its existence, first 35 years, they were sub 100 crores in terms of the turnover. And the last 5 years or 7 years, we can see the company, how it has grown more than 4 times, right? So that is one of the, sort of a proud moment for us. So that's a long journey. So this is a work in progress. I'm not saying, that our job is over. This is a work in progress. So we have now standard processes, we have modules, templates, we have developed strong subject matter expertise. We have come out with a culture of cross-functional team, continuous learning. We also ensure that we will not only strengthen the process capability, but we will also invest in people. So we had a lot of lateral recruitment done, and I want to share with you, and I'm glad to share that in the public sector, being a public sector, we made inroads into new generation IIM, Indian Institute of Management, as well as IIT. We went to the newer IIM. When I talk about that, we went to Kozhikode, we went to places like IIM Kashipur, we went to places like IIM Ranchi, IIT Patna, and people who were not allowed, especially in public sector, now they are not seen as a very preferred employer. But we not only ensured that we go, we present, we got 100% people who we selected, 100% people joined. So there was not a single offer drop. All of them are currently working. It was almost 3 years. Most of my colleagues said, within 6 months, all of them will walk out from the next door. But that's not the way. How well you engage young management trainees, young professionals from IITs and IIMs, that is the way you win them over, right? So our journey towards employee engagement continues. The town hall is a regular feature where we are very transparent. We share business updates, and the town hall normally works once in every month. We talk everything about the market buzz, where the company is headed for, what is the competition, how our earnings are figuring out, and stuff like that. So it's a very participative employee town hall, which is a success here.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Ratnesh. I have a couple of questions, and because it is related to the topic you're talking about, if you'll allow me. Very interesting question, actually. One is basically a statement. I don't know if you can elaborate, it's fine. It says we need strategic business thinking in PSUs. They mean public sector units. It's not a question, it's a statement. If you would like to say something, it's fine, else we can move on.
Yeah, it does. So I will give the context, about it requires a lot of strategic thinking. You cannot run the business the way it is running today. And I'm making a general statement for all PSUs for that matter. And one of the fundamental things which we all have come across is that all public sectors, be it in oil exploration, space, defense, education, you name it, steel, power, they are facing a lot of competition from the private sector. So the scale of business, the nature of business, that has undergone a change. Now, that how well it translates into public sector, that depends a lot on the leadership.
Understood.
How far they are willing to change.
Excellent, sir. Now, the next question, what do you see the role of AI, ML, and data analytics in the HR function? Not necessarily public sector, but the function itself.
So, see, artificial intelligence, if you look at, we are at a very, very nascent stage. We would love to use AI for our recruitment to begin with, where it does it really helps us in trying to, narrow down our choice and really save a lot of time and have a very qualitative, help, tools to identify the talent which we are looking for. But this is at a very nascent stage. Coming back to data analytics, that is already in. We have a very strong HR analytics and I would say reporting. We use a lot of ERP data. We have ERP which is completely, now it is a very common thing. Everything is there. And what exactly point I'm trying to drive here is whatever gets measured gets improved.
Excellent.
So that is exactly what we do.
Now, that's excellent to know. Mr. Ratnesh, I appreciate all your contribution, all your slides and discussions, and especially an eye-opener, as I said, when it comes to people having a view on what really goes on in a public sector enterprise. And it's extremely insightful in terms of knowing that the public sector is just like any other corporate organization, has the same kind of competition, has the same kind of pressures, has the same kind of management issues, has the same kind of probably even people issues. And how you react, what really happens, makes the distinction between a leading public sector organization and one that lags behind. We have just run completely out of time with Mr. Ratnesh. Is there anything you would like to say to wrap this up? I would appreciate last few words, please.
I agree with you. Just give me, I'll take 1 minute to really wrap it up.
Sure.
So it has been limited point I want to share with my, distinguished colleagues and
Sure.
seniors is that the winds of change has knocked the doors of the public sector, and you rightly, you resonate with my thought. There's no basically difference between public sector and a private sector. It's a question between efficient sector and basically inefficient, right? Change is a need of hour. If we do not change, we perish. And when I make this statement, I make this statement with a lot of responsibility that the government has made this abundantly clear that don't hide under the public sector banner anymore. You perform, you make the changes, you make the adjustments. If you do it successful, we are fine. Else, make way for others. So change, innovation, competitiveness is the need of the hour. And the fact of the matter is this success story is one of the key, I would say, example as to how the organizations have, thought inward, understood, where's the pain point, and they have come out with some fantastic results. And so the veil of public sector is diminished now. So that days are over, especially under the present government.
Okay, great. Thank you so very much, Mr. Ratnesh. The wheels of change, wherever you are, turns slowly, but the good news is that it turns. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank you from my team, for being part of this event. And thank you so much for all your support during the days and hours leading up to the event. Especially Helen says to say big thanks to you as well. She's unable to join online right now, but I'm sure she'll get on a phone and speak to you soon. Thank you so very much, Mr. Ratnesh.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Good luck.
One of the thank you.